In 1499, a French cardinal walked into a Roman workshop and saw something that made him stop. The sculptor was 24 years old. What he had made was a life-size marble group of the Virgin Mary, holding the body of Jesus Christ after the crucifixion. The cardinal had commissioned it for his own tomb. He had expected something accomplished. What he found was something that had no precedent in the history of sculpture. He asked Michelangelo to sign it. Michelangelo refused. Then, according to the account that has survived, he changed his mind, went back to the sculpture in the middle of the night, carved his name across the sash on Mary's chest, and never signed another work again for the rest of his life. The question of why he signed it and why he never signed anything again is the first thing the Pieta refuses to answer. It is not the last. The commission was placed in 1498 by Cardinal Jean de Villers, the French ambassador to the Holy See. He wanted a funerary monument, a devotional image of Mary holding the dead Christ, to be placed in the chapel of the Kings of France in Old St. Peter's Basilica. The subject was well established in Northern European devotional art, particularly in the German tradition of the Pieta. But no Italian sculptor had attempted it at this scale, and no sculptor of any nationality had produced a version that prepared the viewer for what Michelangelo delivered. The figure of Mary is too young. This was noticed immediately, and it has been commented on ever since. The mother of a 33-year-old man should not look younger than her son. The theological critics who saw the Pieta in the months after its completion raised this objection, and Michelangelo's response has been recorded in the notebooks of the artist Ascanio Condivi, who knew him personally. Michelangelo said that women who are chaste do not age. This is not an anatomical explanation. It is a theological argument. The claim that Mary's physical youth is a visual expression of her spiritual purity, that the Virgin's body does not follow the laws that govern ordinary human bodies, because she is not an ordinary human being. The sculpture is not making an error. It is making a statement about the nature of holiness. The Vatican accepted this argument. The Pieta was installed. It has been in St. Peter's Basilica ever since, first in the French chapel, later moved to its current location near the entrance, where it now stands behind bulletproof glass. The glass arrived after 1972, and this is where the story becomes something no one expected. On May 21, 1972, a Hungarian-born Australian geologist named Laszlo Toth entered St. Peter's Basilica, carrying a hammer concealed in his coat. He walked to the Pieta, climbed over the barrier, and struck the sculpture 15 times before he was stopped by other visitors. He broke Mary's left arm at the elbow. He damaged her nose. He knocked off part of her left eyelid. He struck her repeatedly across the face and neck. He was shouting. Witnesses said that he was Jesus Christ. The attack produced 55 fragments. Restoration took 10 months. Marble dust and chips collected from the floor of the basilica were used to fill the damage. The restored arm was reattached. The nose was rebuilt from a fragment found in a visitor's coat pocket. A bystander had picked it up instinctively from the floor. After the restoration, the Pieta was placed behind bulletproof glass. It has not been touched by human hands since. What Toth intended by the attack has never been satisfactorily explained. He was judged mentally ill and committed to a psychiatric institution rather than prosecuted. He was released after 2 years and has never spoken publicly about what he did. The man who attacked the Virgin Mary in St. Peter's Basilica believed he was Christ. The institution that guards the image of Christ's mother has never produced an account of what that means. But this is where the story becomes stranger still. Return to the signature. Michelangelo carved his name across the sash that runs diagonally across Mary's chest. Michela, Gelus Bonarotis Florentin, Ius Faciebat. The Latin verb is faciebat, the imperfect tense, meaning was making rather than made, not a completed action, an ongoing one. Several scholars have noted this grammatical choice and debated its significance. The imperfect tense in Latin signatures was sometimes used to express modesty, the suggestion that the work was still in progress, that the artist did not consider it finished. But it could also express something else, that the act of making had no definitive end, that the work existed in a permanent state of becoming rather than a fixed state of completion. This is not a minor distinction. If the Pieta is being made rather than made, then it is not a finished object to be viewed from outside. It is an ongoing act, a continuous present tense frozen in marble that the viewer enters rather than observes. Whether Michelangelo intended this reading is not recorded. He was 24. The imperfect tense may have been a conventional gesture of artistic humility, or it may have been the only accurate description of what he understood himself to have produced, something that was not finished because it could not be finished, because the subject it depicted was not finished either. The death of Christ in Christian theology is not an ending. It is a transition. Mary holding the body of her son is not a scene of final loss. It is the moment before what comes next. The Pieta, by this reading, is not a monument to death. It is a monument to the pause before resurrection, the specific silence between the end of one thing and the beginning of another. This is why Mary looks young, not because Michelangelo made an error, or even because he made a theological argument about chastity, but because in this moment, this specific moment between death and what follows, time does not work the way it normally works. The ordinary laws of aging, of cause and effect, of before and after, are suspended. The imperfect tense of the signature says, "This is still happening." The marble says, "It will always be happening." Michelangelo lived until 1564. He was 88 years old when he died, having worked until the final weeks of his life. In those 65 years after the Pieta, he produced the David, the Moses, the Sistine Chapel ceiling, the Last Judgment, and the unfinished Rondinini Pieta, which he was still working on 3 days. Before his death, he never signed another work. The scholars who have examined this have proposed several explanations. That the Pieta's signature was a moment of youthful vanity he later regretted. That a dispute about the attribution of the work prompted him to sign it, and the dispute's resolution made further signatures unnecessary. That he simply decided, after the Pieta, that signatures were beneath him. None of these explanations is satisfying, because none of them accounts for the specific grammar of the signature he did leave. He did not write facet, made. He wrote faciebat, was making. He left his name on the one work he signed in a tense that grammatically refuses to close the act of creation. The Pieta is still in St. Peter's Basilica. The glass has been there for over 50 years. The restoration of 1972 is invisible to the naked eye. Mary is still young. Christ is still in her arms. The signature is still there, across the sash, in the tense that says the making has not stopped. Whether it ever will is a question. Michelangelo answered with the only word he left. Was making, not made. Was making. The verb is still open. So is the question.